It started with the sound of laughter, echoing down the long marble hallway of the Montclair estate. Jose stood still for a moment, the folder of legal documents clenched in his hand. Antoinette's laughter, sharp and glittering like broken glass, cut through the silence. She was in the drawing room again, probably entertaining someone, and no doubt wearing that smug look she always wore when she thought she had won. Jose pushed the door open without knocking. Antoinette was lounging on the velvet chaise, sipping wine. Her dark red dress hugged her perfectly, the diamond ring on her finger catching the light. His ring. She didn't even flinch when he entered. "Something you want?" she asked, her lips curling. "You know exactly why I'm here." Antoinette leaned forward slightly. "Still bitter about the ring, Jose? You left it in my drawer." "That's abandonment, legally speaking." Jose stepped closer, placing the folder on the mahogany table in front of her. "That ring was for my mother. I told you that. It was supposed to go back in the family will. And now," she said, tapping her ring finger against the crystal glass, "it's mine." Jose looked at her and saw through the silk and diamonds, down to the venom she wore like perfume. Antoinette hadn't always been like this. Or maybe she had, and he was just too blind to see it before. Before the money, before the accident, before Charles was gone. She rose slowly and moved toward him, her eyes dancing. "You know, you're not in the will anymore. Charles took you out right before he passed. But don't worry," she whispered. "He left everything to me, including his shares in the company. You're not even a footnote anymore." Jose didn't flinch. "That's what you think." She arched a brow. "Oh, you played your hand too early, Antoinette. You pushed Charles to make changes when he wasn't of sound mind. And now, there's doubt. The lawyers are talking. The judge is reviewing." She froze for just a second, barely a blink, but Jose caught it. "Let me guess," he continued. "You didn't think I'd fight back. You thought I'd vanish, like Charles did." Her voice dropped low. "Be careful, Jose. You have a lot to lose." He stared at her hand, the ring that used to belong to his mother's mother. He thought about Charles, their uncle, who raised them both. He thought about Mary, who warned him once, quietly, in a hallway where shadows whispered louder than people. "Don't trust her, not when the money's near." Antoinette smiled again, but it was thinner. "This time, you think taking me to court will bring him back? Will make you the golden boy again?" "No," Jose said, his voice calm. "But it'll put the right name back on that will, and take you off it." She tossed her head back and laughed again. "But this time, it sounded a little off, like the edges were fraying." "You want to play dirty, Jose? Fine, let's play." He didn't respond, just turned and walked out. Mary was waiting outside, sitting on the garden bench like she had all day to kill. She stood as he approached, brushing invisible dust from her skirt. "How'd she take it?" she asked. "Like she always does." She smiled. "Which means she's scared." Mary glanced up at the house. "You know she won't give up the ring, or the money." "I don't need her to give it up," Jose said. "I just need to make sure everyone sees what she really is." Mary hesitated, then said quietly, "You sure about this? You ready for what's going to come out?" He met her eyes. "I've already lost enough. It's time she does too." Mary nodded. "Once, then let's take her down." And just like that, it began. The court case, the whispers, the tapes, the one video Charles recorded days before he died but never sent. Secrets began to ooze out like tar. People started asking questions. About Charles, about Antoinette, about what really happened the night he fell down the stairs. Jose was ready. He'd waited too long, lost too much, and let her take everything. Now it was his turn. The house changed after the lawsuit began. The staff walked quieter, the lights seemed dimmer, and Antoinette's laughter became a rare sound. Jose noticed it all. Every little shift in behavior, every sideways glance, every door that creaked a little too slowly shut. When he entered, Antoinette was unraveling beautifully, elegantly, but unraveling all the same. It started with the phone calls. First from her lawyer, then from old family friends, people who had once begged to be on her guest lists now wanted distance. No one wanted to be attached to scandal, especially not when probate court was involved. Charles's will was under official review now, and Jose had provided enough evidence to raise legitimate questions about its validity. One morning, as he stood in Charles's old study, still untouched since his death, Mary came in holding an envelope. It arrived today. No return address, but it's weird. Jose opened it carefully. Inside was a single flash drive and a typewritten note. You want the truth? Look between the smiles. See, he blinked. See? You think that's Charles? Mary nodded slowly. Or someone pretending to be him. Jose plugged in the drive to Charles's old computer, heart thumping in his chest. A video loaded, grainy but clear. It was a home recording. Charles sat on a bench in the garden, his face tired, his voice low. If you're seeing this, something's gone wrong. I changed the will, yes, but not because I wanted to. Antoinette, she pressured me, threatened me. She said she knew things about my past, about Jose. She made me believe if I didn't name her the sole heir, she'd ruin everything. Jose clenched the arms of the chair so tightly his knuckles turned white. Charles took a deep breath in the video. I wasn't in my right mind when I signed the new will. I regret it. I tried to change it back. I didn't get the chance. The video ended. Silence sat in the room like a heavy fog. Mary finally said, This changes everything. Yeah, Jose whispered. It proves she coerced him. Maybe more. But they needed more than a video. A typed note and a flash drive weren't enough to shift the courts. They needed something public, undeniable, something that would make Antoinette's perfect fod crack under pressure. So Jose called a press conference. Antoinette showed up to the estate that afternoon, wearing black as if she were in mourning, probably for her public image. You're really going to air our family's dirty laundry? She asked, walking up the stone path in heels that clicked like gunshots. It's not laundry when it's evidence, Jose replied coldly. I'll crush you, Jose. Do you really think the world will side with you? You're nothing but a disappointed nephew, trying to steal back what's gone. You think this is about money? He asked. You took everything that mattered to me. My uncle, my trust, my peace, and you paraded around with his name like you earned it. Antoinette smiled with venom. Then let's both go down swinging. But Jose wasn't the one who was about to fall. The video went viral. News outlets picked it up. Investigators reopened the inquiry into Charles's death. Suddenly, the case wasn't just about a will, it was about manipulation and possibly murder. Then came the interview. Mary agreed to speak to the press. She told them about the night Charles died, about how she heard shouting, how Antoinette told everyone he slipped and fell, how no one saw her cry, not even once. The public turned. Support poured in for Jose. Antoinette, once the darling of the estate, became its ghost. Jose watched her retreat in real time, first from the estate, then from social media, then from the city itself. But the fight wasn't over. One night, Mary received a call from an unknown number. She answered, and for a long moment, no one spoke. Then a woman's voice said coldly, If I'm going down, I'm not going alone. Mary didn't sleep that night. Jose didn't either. They had forced Antoinette's mask to crack, but now they had to survive what would come out from underneath it. Jose had expected a fight, but not the kind that reached into his past like a claw. The morning after Mary received the call, reporters were camped outside his apartment. One of them yelled, Is it true you were arrested at 19 for theft? Another asked, Were you financially dependent on Charles until the end? He didn't answer. Not there, not then, but he knew who was behind it. Antoinette was digging into his history, turning every small mistake into a weapon. She was playing dirty now. Jose had always feared that part of her, how she could smile while setting fire to someone's life. Inside, Mary was pacing the kitchen, phone in hand. She leaked your juvenile record, she said, furious. And the thing about Charles bailing you out financially? Twisted. She's making it look like you were after his money all along. Jose sighed and leaned against the counter. It's working. Public sympathy's shifting again. Some people are saying I doctored that video. Mary looked up sharply. Do you think she's capable of more? Jose didn't need to answer. They both knew she was. The next day, he found his car keyed. Gold digger, scratched deep into the driver's door. Mary's tires were slashed. Antoinette wasn't just trying to ruin reputations anymore, she was sending messages. That night, Jose sat alone in Charles's study again, scrolling through old messages. He stopped at one sent 2 days before Charles died. It was short. Need to talk. Something's wrong. Attached was an audio file. Jose had never opened it before. His hands trembled slightly as he clicked play. Charles's voice, shaky and nervous. If anything happens to me, check the wine bottles. Antoinette's been watching my medication. I think she's switching pills. Something isn't right, and I can't prove it yet. But if I end up dead, it wasn't an accident. Jose stared at the screen. His uncle had left breadcrumbs, and no one had followed them. Until now. He called Mary. We're going to the police. This isn't just about a will anymore. It's attempted murder. They brought the flash drive and went straight to Detective Harmon, who had closed Charles's case a year ago. She listened carefully, jaw tightening as the recording ended. Why didn't you come forward with this sooner? She asked. I didn't know it was there, Jose admitted. I thought it was just another voice note. Harmon stood, rubbing her temple. We'll need to exhume the body. If there were traces of the wrong medication, it'll be there. The process was brutal, quiet, secret. But 2 weeks later, the lab results came in. Traces of benzodiazepinous meds not prescribed to Charles were found in his system. Enough to make him dizzy, unstable. Enough to make a staircase fatal. When the news leaked, Antoinette disappeared. No contact, no statements. Her lawyer quit. Then a postcard arrived. It was addressed to Jose. No return address, just a photo of a lake one they used to visit during summers with Charles. On the back, written in her flowing handwriting, don't fool yourself. You haven't won. I just changed the game. Mary stared at it with a chill running down her spine. She's not done. No, Jose agreed, voice low. She's just getting started. That evening, Jose stood in Charles's old bedroom, remembering the man who raised him like a son. The man who taught him loyalty and love, who fell for a woman that ultimately betrayed them both. Jose looked at the family portrait on the wall. Antoinette stood next to Charles in it, smiling like she belonged, but she never had. And now, she wouldn't be in the picture at all. 3 days later, a woman was spotted in nice, France glasses, a scarf, speaking perfect French but with an accent too polished to be local. A tourist snapped a photo without realizing who she was. It ended up online. Within hours, people were whispering the same name, Antoinette Montclair. Interpol got involved, but she vanished again before any real action could be taken. Jose stared at the blurry photo for a long time. Antoinette, with her head tilted to the side, sipping espresso like she didn't have murder accusations hanging over her. Like she hadn't tried to erase him from existence. She's not running, Mary said, arms crossed. She's circling. Jose nodded. She's waiting to hit back. And then the fire happened. Montclair Industries' downtown office went up in flames around midnight. No casualties, but the damage was immense. Investigators called it arson. Jose knew what it meant. Antoinette was burning what she couldn't keep. He met with the family lawyers the next morning. Antoinette's position as sole heir has been revoked, Mr. Callahan told him. Given the evidence of coercion and the ongoing criminal investigation, the estate is reverting to the original structure. Jose didn't smile. It didn't feel like a victory. So, that means the assets come back to me? He asked. Callahan hesitated. Most of them, yes. But some were liquidated, properties sold, funds moved offshore. She planned this well. Jose left the office in a daze. Outside, the city felt louder than usual, the streets more judgmental. He had his name back on the will. The Montclair legacy was his again, but it felt poisoned, tainted by the games Antoinette had played. Mary found him sitting on the fountain ledge in the plaza, staring at nothing. You did it, she said quietly. No, I survived it, he muttered. Then she sat beside him and whispered, there's something else. She pulled out a thick manila envelope. Inside were pages, bank transfers, emails, messages Antoinette had sent from private accounts. She had help, Mary said. A second signature appears on several of these. Someone in the company helped her move money. Someone close. Jose's stomach twisted. Who? Mary flipped to the last page. It was a scanned contract. The name typed neatly below the second signature made his blood run cold. Charles, his uncle. That's not possible, Jose whispered. He was the victim. Mary didn't say anything, and then Jose saw the date on the paper. The signature wasn't from months before Charles died. It was from 2 weeks before. He signed this while he was already suspicious of her, Mary said, which means either she forged it, or he was playing a double game. Jose stood slowly, heart pounding. He knew what she was doing, but he still helped her, or pretended to, Mary said. We don't know the full story yet. The truth unraveling now was no longer just about Antoinette. It was about Charles, about secrets even Jose didn't know his uncle had. Suddenly, everything shifted. The motives, the betrayal, The possibility that Charles' father figure, mentor, protector might have been in deeper than anyone guessed. Later that night, Jose wandered the old wine cellar, the one Charles kept locked most of the time. Something gnawed at him. Something. Charles once said at dinner, years ago, when Jose was still a teenager, "If I ever go down, kid, just know it wasn't alone." I've always kept insurance. Jose found the panel by accident behind a stack of dusty merlet. A hidden safe, old and mechanical, not digital. Inside, a stack of tapes, a journal, and one brown envelope addressed to Germ Jose Rafael Montclair. With trembling hands, he opened it. Inside was a single line in Charles's handwriting. "If you're reading this, you're already into deep. Finish what I couldn't. Burn the rot." Jose sank to the floor, envelope still in hand. He hadn't inherited a fortune, he'd inherited a war. Jose didn't sleep that night. The journal alone had enough inside it to make his blood run cold. It wasn't just business notes or financial records, it was a confession, not of guilt, but of entanglement. Charles had known what Antoinette was capable of. He'd known for years. He'd even suspected she was responsible for a silent takeover attempt long before she officially entered the Montclair circle. "She's charming," one entry read, "but beneath the silk is steel and poison." Another line stood out like it had been branded into the page. "She took the ring to test me, but it wasn't hers. It never was. I gave her the company to see if she'd hang herself with the power, but I never thought she'd pull me down with her." Jose read every page, every panicked line. Charles had danced with the devil, trying to keep her close enough to control, but not close enough to destroy him. And he'd failed, because in the end, she had done both. The tapes were something else entirely, audio recordings of phone calls. Most with lawyers or board members, but a few with Antoinette herself. One of them chilled Jose more than anything yet. Charles's voice, calm, deliberate. "You still have the ring?" Antoinette, sweet as honey, "Of course. You told me to keep it. I told you to watch it, not steal it." A pause. Then Antoinette's tone turned sharper. "Don't pretend you didn't enjoy watching him suffer. You let me twist the knife." Jose paused the tape, his hand trembling. His eyes burned, not from exhaustion, but from something deeper, realization. Charles had been many things, a mentor, a father figure, but never innocent. He'd allowed Antoinette to manipulate Jose, not just for power, but for amusement, for leverage. Mary walked in quietly, watching him from the doorway. "You okay?" she asked. He didn't look up. "I think I hate him more than her now." Mary stepped closer, sitting down beside him. "He betrayed you in a different way. He let her hurt me, let her take everything, and he just watched." Jose dropped the journal onto the floor. "And the worst part is, he still thought he was protecting me." That afternoon, Jose called the board of Montclair Industries together. Mary stood at his side while he laid the tapes, the journal, and the files onto the conference table. He didn't hold anything back. He exposed it all: Charles's complicity, Antoinette's manipulation, the years of lies wrapped in family dinners and corporate smiles. Some of the older board members shifted uncomfortably. Others stared at him with silent horror. "Why are you showing us this?" one asked. "It could ruin the company's name." "It's already ruined," Jose said, "but I'm going to rebuild it. And the only way to start clean is to burn what's rotting." He was met with silence. Then, one by one, the heads nodded. The vote was unanimous. Jose was reinstated as CEO. The investigation into Charles and Antoinette's financial dealings was turned over to the federal authorities. That night, Mary joined him in Charles's old room. She looked at him like she hadn't since all this began, not with pity, but with something closer to respect. "What now?" she asked. Jose stared out the window. "Now we clean house, sell what we don't need, cut off the people who were loyal to them, and rebuild." "From what?" she asked. "All you've got left is ash." Jose turned to her. "Good," he said. "That's how you make something fireproof." But just as things started to settle, another envelope arrived. This time hand-delivered. No name, just an emblem pressed into red wax. Inside was a single sentence typed. "There's one more heir. You're not the last Montclair." Mary looked at him, eyes wide. Jose whispered, "She's still playing." No one knew what was coming next, but Antoinette had just raised the stakes again. The next morning, Jose sat in the study, staring at the envelope again. That wax emblem, it wasn't from any firm he recognized. It wasn't legal. It wasn't corporate. It was personal. deeply, and it looked old, almost antique. Mary stood near the window, arms crossed. You think she's bluffing? Jose shook his head. Antoinette doesn't bluff. She breaks people, slowly, then leaves just enough hope to make them crawl back. But another heir? Mary asked. Who? Charles didn't have children. And your mother? She died before I was even 10. There's no one else. Mary hesitated. What if he had someone you never knew about? Jose didn't answer, but his silence said enough. He called Mr. Callahan, the estate attorney, and within hours they were back in his office. Documents spread out again. There it was, an old file, nearly forgotten. A trust opened 12 years ago under a name Jose had never heard before. Eleanor Brighton. Callahan adjusted his glasses. She was added as a secondary beneficiary, but it was hidden in the appendix of an offshore trust. Hard to trace unless you knew where to look. Who is she? Jose asked. Callahan frowned. According to our records, she's Charles's daughter, born from an affair in Paris. Mother deceased. She's 28 now, lives under a different surname, all quietly managed by Charles's private counsel. Jose blinked. He had a daughter? And he never said anything? Mary's face had gone pale. This changes everything. Callahan leaned forward. She has legal claim, Jose, especially now that Antoinette's been stripped out. If she steps forward, she could take half, maybe more. That night, Jose sat alone in the study. For the first time in weeks, he didn't feel anger or betrayal. He felt tired, bone-deep exhaustion. Every time he thought it was over, another ghost stepped into the room. He poured himself a drink and stared at the fire. And then, without warning, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. No caller ID. He picked up. Jose, a woman said, her voice calm, clear, and somehow already familiar. I'm not your enemy, but I am your sister. He froze. Eleanor? A pause. Yes. He took a deep breath. Why now? Why reach out? Because you've ripped open a legacy I've spent my whole life hiding from, she said. Charles wasn't a father. He was a shadow that paid my bills and left guilt instead of love. Jose said nothing. She continued. But I don't want Montclair. I don't want the estate, the money, the board. I want peace. And if you're smart, you'll want the same. What does that mean? He asked. It means Antoinette's still out there, Eleanor said. And she's going to use me as her next move. She already reached out. Jose's pulse quickened. She contacted you? Yes. She offered me a deal, split the inheritance, clear her name, and destroy yours. And you're telling me this? Why? Because I hate her more than I hate Charles. And because I think we can help each other. Jose stared into the fire. You sure you're not just playing a long game? I already have money, she said. The difference between you and her is you still care about the name. I don't. I just want her gone. Jose leaned back. Meet me. I'm already here, she replied. Check the gates. He ran to the window. A black sedan idled outside the Montclair estate. Mary appeared behind him. Who is it? My sister, he said slowly. And maybe the only person who hates Antoinette as much as we do. As he opened the door, Eleanor stepped out of the car. She was tall, composed, and looked nothing like Charles. But her eyes, they held the same calculation, the same fire. You came alone? Jose asked. No, Eleanor said. I came with a plan. And as they walked inside, the war for Montclair was no longer his alone. It had become a family affair. Eleanor moved through the estate like she'd been there 100 times. Calm, measured, not impressed, not intimidated, just alert. Jose studied her closely. She didn't flinch at the old family paintings or the faint scent of cigars still soaked into the drapes. She paused only once before Charles's portrait. I see he never changed, she said, still pretending to be something noble. You really don't want anything from this place? Jose asked. She turned, her face unreadable. I had him for 28 years as a silent benefactor. I want nothing more. Mary led them into the study and shut the door behind them. Eleanor laid her leather folder on the table. We have one shot. I know how Antoinette operates. She's not gone. She's buying time, hiding, waiting for attention to shift. But her biggest fear isn't jail. It's being irrelevant. So we pull her out, Jose said. Eleanor nodded. With bait, she slid a document across the table, a mock press release announcing the final restructuring of the Montclair estate. It included a line that read, all undisclosed heirs have renounced their claims and closed Charles Montclair's chapter permanently. Mary raised an eyebrow. You think she'll react to this? She won't just react, Eleanor said. She'll explode. Because if she thinks we've locked her out forever, she'll make a move. She won't be able to help herself. Jose studied her. And then what? Then, Eleanor said calmly, we catch her doing something we can actually nail her. 4. The next morning, the press release went out. It spread like wildfire. Talk shows debated the estate. Social media lit up with theories. Most people were happy to see Montclair Industries staying in clean hands. Others, especially those who still believed Antoinette was a misunderstood icon, were less kind. But it didn't matter. The line had been thrown in the water. Now, it was time to wait. It didn't take long. 2 nights later, the estate was breached. The alarms didn't catch it. The cameras were looped for 7 minutes. Someone knew the system well, but Jose and Eleanor were waiting. They stayed in the study, lights off, watching the hallway through a small hidden camera. And then there she was, Antoinette, clad in black, her hair pinned up, her movements smooth and fast. She went straight for Charles's safe in the wine cellar. She's not here to steal, Eleanor whispered. She's here to bury something. Mary, watching from another monitor, gasped. She's planting evidence. Then let her finish, Jose muttered. We'll bury her with it. At exactly 3:17 a.m., Antoinette stepped out of the cellar, her gloved hands empty, but Jose and Eleanor met her at the top of the stairs. Behind them, 2 off-duty officers quietly stepped into the hallway. Antoinette froze, so she said, her voice silk-wrapped steel. This was the plan. Very clever. Jose didn't smile. You walked right into it. She eyed Eleanor. And you? He brought you in like a lost puppy. You're not even Montclair by name. No, Eleanor said, stepping closer. But I'm the one who'll bury yours. Antoinette's face cracked, just for a second. A flicker of rage, of venom, of the woman behind the mask. Then she composed herself and lifted her chin. Enjoy your victory, she said softly. It won't last. You're not better than me. You're just lucky the world loves a man who plays the victim. Jose stepped forward, meeting her eyes. I was never the victim. I was the cleanup crew. And now you're done. The officers cuffed her. She didn't resist. She didn't plead. She just smiled. As they led her away, she called over her shoulder. Check the 3rd drawer in the cellar safe. You'll thank me. And then she was gone. Jose stood frozen. Eleanor looked at him. She bluffing? She asked. He shook his head. She never bluffs. They rushed to the safe. Behind the obvious files and empty envelopes was a sealed brown folder, marked with a single word, insurance. Inside, copies of offshore accounts, recordings of board members accepting bribes, photos of Charles with a woman who looked nothing like Eleanor's mother but enough like Jose's that he felt the room tilt. The Montclair legacy wasn't just broken. It was built on secrets, lies, and leverage. Eleanor stared at the files. This was her real weapon. Jose nodded, heart sinking. And now it's ours. But neither of them felt like winners, because even from behind bars, Antoinette had left a crack in the foundation, and the house of Montclair was still trembling. In the weeks that followed Antoinette's arrest, the estate became eerily quiet. No press at the gates, no lawyers circling like vultures, just silence, thick and echoing, like the house itself was holding its breath. The fallout was swift. The files Antoinette left behind, her twisted gift, sent shockwaves through Montclair Industries. 3 board members resigned under threat of indictment. 2 were arrested. Investors pulled out, and for a moment, it felt like everything was collapsing. But Jose held steady. He stood at every meeting, showed every document, answered every question. We're not hiding anything, he said. We're rebuilding in the open. It wasn't about defending the legacy anymore. It was about burning off the rot, Charles's secrets, Antoinette's manipulation, the network of corruption they'd either created or tolerated. Eleanor stayed in the guest wing, out of sight, but not out of mind. She came to the meetings. She listened. She didn't smile often, but when she did, it was real, earned. One afternoon, Jose found her on the back terrace, sipping tea, looking out at the garden. You ever think about taking the name? He asked. She didn't look at him. No, it doesn't belong to me. It belongs to both of us now, he said. She turned. You really want to carry this name into the future, after everything? Jose nodded slowly, not to honor them, but to overwrite them. They sat in silence. A while, no bitterness, just the weight of what they'd survived. In court, Antoinette finally broke her silence. She pled guilty to multiple counts of fraud and coercion. The prosecution dropped the murder charge for lack of hard evidence, but her sentence was stiff: 18 years. She didn't flinch as the judge read it. She just turned her head once in the courtroom, locked eyes with Jose, and gave him one last smile. She didn't need to say it, "I'll still be in your head." But the truth was she wasn't. Not anymore. The ring was returned. They found it buried behind the wine cellar wall, wrapped in silk. Jose wore it on a chain around his neck, not for sentiment, not for grief, but as a reminder of what people do when they're handed power. A month later, Mary stood next to him. In the company's headquarters renamed Raphael and Brighton, stripped of the Montclair branding. It was smaller, cleaner, and staffed with people who had passed his personal vetting. "You think this actually means something?" she asked. "New name, new sign?" Jose nodded. "Names don't mean anything until you prove they do." Mary smirked. "You sound like Charles." "No," he said. "I sound like someone who lived through him." She leaned against the desk. "So what now?" He thought about it. About the long nights, the hidden files, the betrayal, about Charles, and Antoinette, and Eleanor, sitting in her wing, quiet, but present. About the name Montclair, carved in wood and marble, but never in truth. And then he smiled. "Now," he said, "we build something no one has to lie to keep." He walked out of the office, past the portraits that no longer line the walls, past the empty pedestal where Charles's bust once stood. Outside, the air was clean, brisk, honest. Behind him, the old estate loomed, a monument to the past, but in front of him was freedom. The legacy was no longer inherited. It was earned.